The other thing is, at the end of the year, we'll email everyone who's in attendance and all our sponsors, and you'll have a link for a YouTube channel that has recordings from years past. So, a little podcast link if you ever want to log in and go for a walk. I want to allow Michelle a minute to talk about Cardinal Cushing as well, and then I'll get into introducing her.
Thank you, Jill. So Cardinal Cushing Centers, we've been around since the 50s, supporting adults and students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This building here is our Hanover School building, where we support students ages 10 through 22 with complex needs, learning difficulties, learning challenges, behavioral challenges. We also have a school in Braintree, St. Coletta Day School. We have 2 day hubs, 2 community-based day programs, and then 17 group homes in the greater South Shore community. We support a couple of hundred individuals, and then we also employ almost 600 staff. So we are a large organization and love the work that we do, and we're so thrilled to host you all here, especially in our newly renovated auditorium, and more renovations to come with our aging building. So welcome, and some of our staff are here, and if anyone is interested in doing a tour, I know there'll be rain, so I won't be offended if the answer is no, but if anyone's interested, just seek out myself or one of the staff here. We can provide that for you. Thank you.
So Michelle has dedicated over 25 years to Cardinal Cushing Center, starting as a high school volunteer at St. Coletta Day School in Braintree, and progressing through various roles to become president and CEO. She's passionate about supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and prioritizes transparency, culture enhancement, and leadership. Michelle is actively engaged in the South Shore community. She is a 2021-22 graduate of the Leadership South Shore program, and currently serves on the South Shore Chamber's Executive Committee, as well as being newly appointed to the Braintree Chamber Board of Directors. She has been recognized as one of the top 100 women-led businesses in Massachusetts, and her accomplishments have also been featured in the Boston Business Journal and on Magic 106.7 Exceptional Women Series. Michelle is a lifelong resident of Hull and enjoys spending time outdoors on the water with her husband Jeremy and their 2 sons, Reed and Tiger. Welcome.
And we're so excited for our featured guest today. And I have to say that Erin and I actually met in the Leadership South Shore cohort. So it's a real honor to be here with Erin and sharing her story. Erin is the newly elected Mayor of Braintree, Massachusetts, the first female mayor of Braintree. Erin grew up in western upstate New York in the town of Canandaigua, where her family still lives, and moved to Braintree right after graduating college. Erin has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Syracuse and is a registered professional engineer in both Massachusetts and the state of New York. While Erin began her career working at a women-owned civil engineering firm in Boston, Niche Engineering, it was at her own firm, Joyce Consulting Group, PC, that she spent the majority of her career working locally for developers and architects on both commercial and residential projects. Prior to being elected mayor, Erin served as her children's PTO president, was a member of the Braintree Planning Board, and served at a state and national level for the Massachusetts Board of Registration for Engineers and Land Surveyors. It was the experience volunteering here and working professionally in her local community of Braintree that the seed was planted on how to give back to a community at a grander level to solve some of the very complex issues facing modern communities, especially at an infrastructure level. So it's an honor to be here with Erin. Thank you. Can you hear us? Okay. We do have mics.
Fancy.
I know. Very fancy. I hope I... Hello? Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Woo. Does that work? Great.
Fancy.
Very fancy.
How close?
How's that?
Does that work?
Yeah.
All right.
We're like news.
We'll talk less.
Okay. Is that better, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Erin, what inspired you to pursue a position in public office?
So I think I definitely came to this position in, I think, what is a non-traditional way. I sort of not stumbled through a career ever since when I was little. I definitely wanted to be a civil engineer, and I went, was very mindset on going to college, becoming a civil engineer. I wanted to live in a big city and start my own business. But then as my kids sort of started growing up, getting into school, and I became more active in the community through volunteering in the planning board, I started to think about what I was really most interested in, and it was sort of impacting the community that I was in. And I took different volunteer positions and just kept yearning for, like, what could I do more? What could I sort of pursue to give back in a different way and be involved in some of these more strategic conversations? And I was actually in that search for where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, because I knew there was like a pull to do something different. I stumbled across the South Shore Leadership Program through the Chamber of Commerce and South Shore Bank, and I joined that, and it was in my interview for that, to be a part of that cohort, that Gavin Williams and Stan Blackmore, who's here today, when they were interviewing me, I was talking so much about Braintree that they joked that maybe one day they would have a session in the mayor's office of Braintree and I would be there. And I don't know if any of you have children, but there is this book, What to Do with an Idea. And in the book, a child has an idea, and the illustrations are beautiful, but it's like this little golden egg that starts out small and throughout the story follows the child. And the seed that they planted in that meeting, and then subsequently as I participated in the South Shore Leadership Program, I just kept going back to it and I couldn't shake it. And I think my friends and family will say for like a year and a half I could not shake the idea of this idea of being mayor and why not. And I was just very active already in the town in a lot of different ways that it felt like a path to help try to solve some of these things with my skill set would indeed be mayor. And it just sort of blossomed from there, and I guess the rest is history. I had, in some ways, no idea what I was getting myself into, but I did. And so now we're here, and we're underway on the tough work of that job. But just an atypical path, but I've definitely been someone who has always thought to keep asking questions, keep putting myself in positions to learn more in different things, and I really, truly believe if you're following something that you're very interested and curious about, and you're willing to put in whatever level of work to sort of go after that, I think you can achieve it. I think that's the genuinely, as cheesy as it sounds, like I truly believe you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. Like and that, until I sort of tackled this, like I would have thought, like, oh, that's just what everyone says, but it really is true. So I think I took a non-typical path, but yeah, here I am.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Describe your leadership style, how you lead others, and how do you really keep your teams engaged? Because, Braintree is amidst a lot of change, like many of our communities, so how do you balance that?
Thank you. I think that's like a hard question to ask. If we had chatted about what is your leadership style, in some ways it's weird to say what it is when I think your teams would probably describe it in possibly a different way, and I don't think we often talk to our teams about what they think about us or how we're doing. I think that's an important piece, but I think my leadership style is being authentically myself, and I'm really not afraid to ask questions, and I try to encourage people I'm working with to ask the questions. If you're thinking of something in a meeting, and you just assume maybe everyone else in the meeting knows what's being talked about, I can guarantee you that is not the case. Like, I've been in plenty of meetings, even in the last couple months, where people are throwing around acronyms, so casually throwing around numbers, and I'm no matter who I'm with, I'm not afraid to be like, what does that stand for? And then you end up, like, even the person talking will be like, so I think it's being, not afraid to just be yourself and not afraid to admit what you know or don't know. I mean, honestly, I didn't know, no one knows how to be a mayor. There's no mayor school to go to. When I was newly elected, they had the Massachusetts Municipal Association has like a couple of like workshops for new mayors. And when I was newly elected, I was getting emails like, congratulations, you can come to this mayor workshop. And I'm like, is this real? Like, is there actually a new mayor's workshop? And there is. And we all went, and we all sat around a table together, and I met some great new friends. But we were all just looking at each other like, what are we doing? Like, we all decided that we'd spent plenty of time thinking about how to get out of it once we were elected, and how to tackle it, and we all had really like questions, and some of the questions we were asking, like, you would be afraid to say out loud because you're the mayor. Like, you can't ask, like, you know, some of these, like, how do I, you know, where do I go to start a budget process? Like, you know, you feel silly, like you should know that. But I think, don't assume that people in the room are smarter than you, or are more qualified than you. And I think as a leader, it's really important to understand, like, as much as you can about your systems, from like the very bottom to like the very top. And I think sometimes that means, you know, going in to the actual working groups and talking to them and like learning how they do their processes. And I think being in meetings and being able to ask what feels like dumb questions, not only does it educate you, but I think it also empowers the people who may realize like, oh, I know this better than this person that I think knows everything. And I think it helps to sort of break it down. Like, we're all just people from different backgrounds. Like, I am mayor, yes, but there's nothing more special about me than any of you. It's just, I chose to go after this opportunity and thankfully was elected into this position, but I don't hold any special powers that any of you have. And I think just recognizing as a leader, you know, I think humbly leading and being vulnerable to your staff in those times is important. I think it helps you, you know, be better. I take pride in trying to like understand the complexity of things, and I think it helps you to make good decisions at the end of the day when you're trying to lead people in a direction.
Yeah, I love that. I think authenticity is so important in our leadership style, and being able to be vulnerable in front of your staff and say, you know, I don't know the answers, and it's really brave, and I think it shows that side of you, as we're all real people, right? What are some of the biggest challenges you face, and especially being the first female mayor? Has there been any challenges being kind of seen in this, you know, new face of Braintree?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge, but maybe it's just the one I'm most insecure about, and it started straight away, is that I didn't grow up in Braintree. I'm not what some of the people who have been in Braintree. I mean, Braintree is a very deep, generationally rooted community. Families that have lived there, you know, for multiple generations, businesses that have been there for multiple generations. There's a lot of networking that happens just growing up in a community and having families that grew up in a community. And I was very insecure about that going in, but I was, you know, there were two options. There were, you know, so it was like, you know, there was some limit to who people could, you know, pick to be their mayor, so to speak. But I always felt like when people were like, where are you from? I had to be like, well, my husband grew up in Braintree. I mean, that's how I ended up there. But I felt like I couldn't be my authentic self to that extent. So I feel like that continues to be a challenge in like having people trust you, like, because you didn't come from her. It's very powerful to have, I was sitting at a groundbreaking and the mayor of Brockton was speaking, and he started out just with like, I was born in Brockton Hospital. And I was like, that's so powerful. Like, so looking and reflecting on that, that's always been sort of like, you know, I love Braintree, I chose Braintree, my family, like this is my kids' hometown, my husband's hometown, like I have so much passion to do it, but it's funny because I always sort of fall back on like, you know, an outsider, so to speak, and it's, so I think that's been a challenge for me internally. I think as a woman, as being the first woman mayor, that doesn't honestly feel as overwhelming as the not originally from Braintree. But yeah, I think that is the challenge, just on a very like, you know, simple level. On a technical level, I was definitely walking into a huge financial crisis in Braintree, and I think it was, you know, certainly made worse by, you know, the political unwillingness to talk about it in previous years. And I think that going into it, I wasn't telling anybody anything they wanted to hear. And I think where we are now as a community is, we're recognizing our problems. We've identified paths to solve them. We have an upcoming special election for an override vote. But for a lot of people, this is the first time they're hearing of it. And I think I read somewhere it's easier to tell people a lie than to convince them they've been lied to. And it's not so much that people have been lied to, but it's really hard to try to tell a complex storyline and try to come up with a solution when you're the first one talking about it that way in a long time. And so we'll see how the override vote goes this year. I think people, even people who have been in Braintree a long time, are still really unsure of that. But that was really the hardest first piece that we had to tackle from an administration perspective. We've been able to bring in some new people on the finance side, so I do think we've had some, and people always want to say do an audit first and then do this, but there's a lot that we want to do better, but it's such a fast timeline since we took over in January and the first budget's due at the end of April. You're trying to work through all the nuances and unravel a lot of the stuff that hasn't been well tracked over the years. It just was an immense challenge, which I think the team worked super hard on, and we did a lot of presentations. It'll never be enough. People will never think you're doing enough, which is fair enough. But that was definitely the hardest first piece. So I think those were my two big challenges going in.
You haven't found your pause button yet?
No. I'm not sure I will.
Okay.
I don't think it's possible.
We were joking about that. If you could just hit pause and fix everything and organize it and then move forward, right? It would be wonderful. Being, we're both moms, right? And finding that balance and not even being a parent, but finding a balance in your life when you have these really demanding careers, you're being pulled in a million different directions. Any helpful hints or advice to any of us, or?
Yeah.
I would love some.
Okay. Well, I think for a long time, I was always thinking that there was work-life balance. And it's just work and life and maybe balance. I don't know. I think that if you're chasing it, I would just stop and take a deep breath and be like, it's okay. Because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to come across as looking like we have everything pulled together. We don't. And if we could normalize, peel back the curtain and be like, what is she actually doing in her free time? I mean, yesterday I picked up my dog that just got spayed, kids at baseball practice. My friend Jamie came over to pick me up, to ride over here with me this morning. The dog's freaking out. The kids are looking for Xbox codes. My husband's upstairs getting ready. I'm running out the door, pouring a cup of hot coffee, and then I'm coming here to look all put together and telling you guys that work-life balance exists. This is not a thing, and I think that's okay. And I think the more we can embrace that and be our authentic selves in our situations, you coming into work or coming into a meeting and saying this crazy thing just happened to me, makes probably everyone else feel okay, this is real. There's, the formality, trying to be, someone we're maybe not feeling like we're being good is important. And I think that it's always been hard. When I started my business, Joyce Consulting Group, I started it when I had a newborn at home, and I started it because I wanted to be home, and I wanted to be able to have my own control of my schedule. I think it's been interesting since the pandemic. There's a lot more work from home, remote opportunities that weren't there. I felt like I had to create that for myself back when I did it. And you want to be all these things, and you want to be them perfectly. And I think we just need to embrace more just sort of the time of our life that we're in. I think when I was running for mayor, there were a lot of people questioning how could a mom do this as a 24/7 job, and there were definitely pieces of me that was I'm going to prove them wrong. But then there were pieces of me where yeah, I should be a mom. I should be home with my kids. I should be doing this. So I feel we're always going to feel conflicted. Mm-hmm. It's a battle day to day. and I was joking with someone earlier, like, from the kids' perspective, like, we have no idea how we're messing up our kids, whether we think we're doing a good job or we're not. So I guess I just won't know how it affects my kids until they're older and they'll tell me. But they're happy. I mean, they're doing okay in school, and they're playing sports, and they have lots of friends, and we have, like, a great friend network. So, you know, when we come home from work, they're like, when can we hang out with friends? So it's not like they're, like, waiting around for us to do it. It really is like what you put into the situation and how you see it. And I just, you know, I'm just kind of like, it's life, it's a mess, it's glorious and crazy, and, you know, just try to not get too overthinking of it all.
Yeah. Give yourself a little grace.
Yeah.
Early on, when Erin was considering running, we had coffee, and she's like, I kind of have this crazy idea. I want to be mayor. And it's like, well, then you go, girl, and you do that, you know. And she said, I just need to know how you do it. Like, how are you being a CEO and a mom? And I was like, I'm not doing it well. I'm sure there are days where I'm killing it and at work, but there are days when I'm, like, killing it at home, and something else has to drop off. And delegation is really important for all of us, whether you're a mom or a dad, or, you know, give yourself some grace. So lots going on in your office, and, you know, I think we can all relate to the competing priorities. And, you know, how do you stay focused in your work with competing distractions and, you know, just your decision-making process as a leader?
Well, I think I'm probably just very distracted in general, but a big part of it, and I'm really happy to have here today, the staff from my office. So my chief of staff, Karen Nyman, is here, and my Kate, what is your official title? You're like the everything. Director of Community Affairs. Yeah, Kate is our everything, but she's Director of Community Affairs. Kate Naughton, and I think having good staff who's helped to, like, sort of, you know, get a shield up for you to, like, you know, being mayor, like, you do have to elevate sort of your access. Like, you want to be accessible to the public, but you also can't meet with every single person who wants time and wants to tell you about their issues. They're important, but you wouldn't have time to, like, work on some of the more strategic directions you want to do for the town. So having good staff, I mean, Kate talks to 1 million people a day. Some of them I get to hear the conversation from my office, and it's very distracting. But I think, you know, scheduling your day and trying to stay on schedule is something that I hope to get better at. I think that that's a big piece of it is, you know, a lot of people want your time, want to meet with you. Even in a given day, you might have like 7 meetings that are completely unconnected to each other. I mean, probably in some way they are, but just being able to bounce from topic to topic and being able to give people, I mean, they're meeting with you, that's a big deal. Being present and being able to give them that time, I think is something that when you're trying to stay concentrated, I really think that's the most important piece for me, or what I've been trying to be very present in the meetings that I'm at. Like, I want to be prepared, I want to be a good listener, I want to be able to have them understand a takeaway of something that I'm actually able to work on in a relatively short amount of time, but knowing that a lot of the problems or challenges or things that are brought forward are not something that are easily solvable in most cases. I found that a lot of people really just want you to listen to them, and having a mayor, you know, meet with them and listen to them is probably 75% of the solution to their issue. So I really try to be present. As far as outside of that, I'm very distracted in any given day. So I hope to get better at that, but I'm not going to fool myself. I think that I'm just, you know, a multitasker on, like, I don't know, on way too much caffeine, I suppose. But yeah, I've always been that way, so I guess maybe I've just funneled it into, you know, I had a lot of different things I was volunteering with prior to being mayor, and I've dropped those in the role of mayor, and that's been in a lot of ways really awesome, because I think I found a unique way to do day-to-day work that's a lot of my interests in one. So that sort of helps to free up some of the distraction. But I don't know, kids, dog, husband, all the things. Like I'm going to be a distracted person for a while.
Yeah. And I'm sure, you know, because we all face this, right? Is these days where it's criticism, it's negativity, and I think the loudest part of that sometimes is our own internal voice. You know, do you experience that? And
yes.
How do you kind of manage that and
yes.
work through that? And especially being such a public figure, walking into just a lot of difficult decisions.
Yes, it's so hard. We were joking about it on the way down here this morning, because I was like, guys, I got to give up the book. And they're like, what? I'm like, I got to give up Facebook. I don't know why I go through phases where I'm like, I just want to know what the people are talking about. And then I look, and then I'm like, I can't handle this. And it's not even the criticism. It's not even my own personal criticism, because I think, you know, I'm someone who really likes to learn problems like as intimately as possible. And so like a lot of the decisions I've made have been based on just conversations I know that I've had, situations I know, like factually for the most part are sort of what, you know, I'm basing my decision on, that a lot of people don't have access to, understanding, or realize. So I have confidence in my decision making, and that helps me be less susceptible to the criticism of like why I'm doing something a certain way. And I also have the perspective right now is like anybody can run for mayor, so somebody doesn't like it, maybe they'll run for mayor. And I have, you know, I earned this chance to be this decision maker, and I'm going to embrace it, and you know, and lead the town in a way that I feel like will, you know, put it in a better place. But social media is incredibly depressing. I think it was sort of built to prey on our susceptibility to that, and I think it's not even I was saying this morning, it's not even the criticism of me. It's just the commentary is so hateful, and when you read, like as a leader or any position where you're reading about situations in your community and you're seeing people like in a very negative way, like I said to my friends driving down, I'm like, it's not even about the criticism of me. It's like my faith in humanity gets like goes down, and to be in this leadership position, like I have to have faith in people, and I have to be energized to be like, we can come out and we can do this together. But when you're reading social media, it's really hard to have that faith restored. So I think for a lot of ways, like you do have to get out, see people being themselves, get out in your community. It's like 5 minutes of that is just so re-energizing. And then, you know, 2 minutes on social media will bring you right back down, so just don't go on social media. Spend your time somewhere else. But I think it is that. Like, I think you are in a very public forward, and you have to do the best you can, and not sort of, for all those reasons, not let the haters, so to speak, drag you down. But man, that is an easy thing to get dragged down by if you let it. So yeah, it's just trying to, and having, you know, close friends that can just, you know, joke about the nasty comments and pull you right back up. That's important too. Side text with your friends is a saving grace for sure.
Absolutely. And how do you handle the stress? Because you are, you know, we were talking about just Erin modeled in our fashion show. We had a gala last week, and yeah, so she was working the runway. It was amazing. And that night there was a big fire in Braintree, and I was thinking, my gosh, I bet Erin got the call, and I was saying to her, do you get calls all the time? And she does. You know, it's a 24-hour job. So how do you allow yourself to step back or be stressed, or, you know, what kind of things do you practice in your day-to-day if you do? I don't. I need to learn some.
Well, I think it's, you know, I think that is the important part, though, is this is a very it's very public-facing, it's unpredictable, there's a lot of stress. I think you have to be careful to not let your bucket get, like, full to the brim, because you never know when you're going to get a call for a tragic situation, or some, you know, maybe you have to go to an incident and maybe be on camera in, like, you know, 2 hours' time. I think that is probably well, before I was mayor, I would have thought that was less frequently happening, but as we've seen in the last couple of months, Braintree is very, a lot of people move through Braintree and things happen in Braintree, and yeah, we did. We had a fire with a fatality the night of the gala. The other weekend we had that crazy stabbing incident at AMC Braintree. I was at my chief of staff's wedding when that happened, so we were joking that she can't leave Braintree even to get married because but it's unpredictable. And I think when you're dealing with managing your own stress, it's important to just keep in mind that if you're feeling like it's getting tough to sort of concentrate or you're feeling anxious in a way, like find something to at least just get rid of some of that, empty your bucket a little bit from that perspective. And right now, I wish I was doing more like physical activity stuff. Like I love pickleball, I love spinning, I love trail running. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm like, I gotta find time to get back to that because that helps. But right now, I'm just leaning on the friend side text. So I'm putting a lot of faith into my circle of friends to crack jokes and lighten the burden, and it's been working so far. So I think it's just, having a way to sort of, in even a really crazy dark thing, be like, have a relief if even just smile or lighten your heart in a way that might be silly. And I think you have to watch it. In some ways, when people ask you the question, it's like, wait, I'm not doing enough for myself. What am I going to do for myself? And I think you just gotta, again, take a deep breath. It's gonna be okay, and like try to find even just a little thing, because we always want to do more.
Sure.
So.
And you had shared with me, and I hope it's okay to share, your police chief had talked to you about mindfulness, and the Braintree Police have just done an incredible job. I learned through the Leadership South Shore opportunity of visiting the station and hearing about so much of their work and supporting people with mental illness. And I loved that he was talking to Erin and saying, I can teach you some mindfulness techniques. I thought that was really
he texts me podcasts, meditation. I guess that's the interesting thing, right? You you have these people in your community that they're just like figureheads, and you just think of them as like the chief of police, and then you meet them as a person, and they interact with you in a more like normal way, and it sort of like flips your thinking around, because you're like, we're all just people. And I think he's like very he gifted me 2 books when I first started. One of them was The Obstacle Is the Way, which I thought was a really interesting book. But yeah, he's really into leadership. And the other day we were in the hallway talking. He's like, have you ever meditated? And I'm like, no. He's like, really? I'm like, I don't know what would happen if I turned my brain off. Like I'm too go. He's like, well, you should try. I'm like, well, I've tried yoga once or twice, but whenever it's like the namaste, like laying down I just panic. My head starts racing, and I haven't gone back to it. So maybe I definitely need to do more work on that. But yeah, it is nice to have those little pieces. Like I think anytime someone randomly sends you something or reaches out, like it's a good like extra outreach that helps. It helps you connect to your team of leaders in your community. So I appreciate that he does that. But yeah, it's I don't know what I would do if I just could turn off, meditate. I don't know.
That'd be hard for me too.
Yeah, hard.
Constantly going.
Something to practice.
And speaking of going, how do you stay motivated in this work, and what gives you inspiration as a leader?
I mean, it's people. It's talking to people. There's never going to be no more problems to solve. I've always been, as a kid, I loved homework. I loved, accomplishing things, and I went into engineering. I mean, that's inherently just problem solving. I love just sort of the process of like learning about the problem, coming up with different ideas, options, and then hopefully seeing a solution come to fruition. So I think, just being a lover of problems, as weird as that is to say, I think I will be, I'll have plenty of years of work to do, so to speak, but that's my motivation, is just the people and just the endless amounts of things to tackle, so to speak. I had, the last couple weeks, had 3rd graders tour. We have 6 elementary schools, so they all tour sort of town halls, fire station headquarters, and the fair, birth house, which is all sort of in a little triangle right in front of town hall. So we've had 3rd graders come in, and it's just so interesting to hear 3rd graders like perspective. Like I have kids that are generally a 1st grader, a 5th grader, and an 8th grader, and so I'm in the thick of it, I guess, so to speak. But in like working with kids that age, but it's wild to listen to their like ideas for like what they would want to do as mayor. I let them all take a turn of sitting in the mayor's seat, and it was just absolutely wild, some of the things that they said. And I told every single class that I was working on an executive order to ban YouTube in Braintree, and they all were like, no, did you actually do that? I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, no. I was like, get off the YouTube. But I think it's
I would
just,
love that.
yeah, right? All the parents would be. That would be a good. But I think, staying motivated, I think, my entire career, I've been motivated, and I think it's just like satisfying the next level of curiosity. Like if you're feeling like in a slump or uninspired, like I think you just need to actually get out there and start trying things to like ignite that spark. We all have it. I think we just forget that we have it, and I think sometimes, you don't have to stay in the same career. Like you don't have to, when you go to college or whatever and you pick a career when you're, right out of high school, so to speak, that's not what you're going to do for the rest of your life probably, or at least it doesn't have to be if you're not happy with it. And there's certainly times in your life where you're not able to make changes because of other things. But I think, we all could do better to find things that spark and like excite us, and you meet new people, you grow your networks. Like I think it's, sort of that path, that journey, that uncertainty is what it's all about.
Yeah, getting in with the people too. I think what's energizing, and I feel it at Cushing too, is when you're in with hearing about problems and hearing about their greatest joys. It brings it gives you the momentum you need, and it fills your bucket and kind of re-energizes you. How are we doing on that? Okay. I have some fun questions.
You said the hardest one.
This is good.
I know, I'm okay.
What, if anything, are you watching on Netflix, Bravo, Hulu? Are you watching anything?
I'm probably not really watching anything. I was saying, I do this horrible thing every night where we sit down, my husband and I sit down to watch TV together, and we have, all the different options. We still have cable, and I'll pick something. He'll be like, you pick something, I'll pick something, and then 8 minutes in, I fall asleep. And then he watches 3 episodes, and then we can never go back and watch the show again. I always pick some weird random reality TV show. This week we've watched I think it's called The GOAT, and it's all these ex-reality TV people come together to try to figure out which one's the best reality TV show. It's such trash. But and I'm like, I'm gonna like this when I fall asleep. So I don't regularly watch. I have been a little bit. The one show I've been watching somewhat regularly is just old episodes of Veep, I think because of the position that I'm now in, a lot of it is more entertaining. But yeah, I'm not really sit in and watch. I'll probably watch the new Bridgerton series because I like those, but it's random.
Yes. I don't know if anyone's watched part 1 of season 3 yet. Can't wait for next week to drop.
Yeah, then that's the other thing is you get used to being able to watch it all at once. And you can't.
How about books? I know when you and I visited last week, you gave me a book, and I apologize, I haven't started yet.
Oh, don't worry. I give it to everyone. I don't think I should.
Any of your, favorite books, inspiring books for you in your role?
My husband jokes this one book that I gifted all of our town councilors when we were starting our new administration, and I've gifted to some leaders who have visited, or just some people who I think would really enjoy it. I offered it up to my department heads. I read this book probably maybe a year or 2 ago, and my husband, every time he sees it, he's like, that's the book. He's like, I don't like that book. That's the book you that's what, had you running. to be mayor. So he doesn't like it, I guess. I don't know. It's called Strong Towns by Charles Mahone, and he's actually a former civil engineer. He created this nonprofit called Strong Towns, and it's this really interesting identification of just, it's like thinking about how cities and towns are going to, like, how they were established, how they're going to work, and, like, in sort of this constant change. Like, you know, if humans are good at anything, it's good at not being able to predict the future. So it's like, how do we, you know, no city is sort of built into its final state. They're constantly evolving, and it peels back some of our mindset on it. And I love the book so much, and I felt like, man, this would be a really cool way to talk about community building and lead communities forward. And I was like, maybe if I could do some of this stuff in Braintree, that'd be cool. How could you do that? Oh, you could be mayor and do some of this stuff. So it was part of the spark that had me interested in this position. But Strong Towns has been, they have a website, podcast. It's really, really a cool thing to, like, you can check in, listen to a couple of things on their social media, but I loved it, and that was definitely like a professional, like, book that I really enjoyed. I don't have as much, not that I have as much time, because I feel like I probably could find time, like, before bed or something to read more like free reading, but I haven't read anything, I would say, in the last year on a non-work related book that I really enjoyed. So I do go through fits where I'll get really into something, and then, you know, as I'm sure we all do. Right now, I just have a pile of books I want to read sitting next to my bed. Yeah, so
you'll get there.
Yeah, I do love to go to the library and check out, like, 3 books that I'll have for 2 weeks, and, you know, have them also sit on my bed.
So, what is something about yourself that most people will be surprised to learn?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know what you would be surprised to learn. Something that I really enjoy winter sports. So I am a skier and a snowboarder, and I think that is something that maybe people wouldn't know. And I also really dislike watermelon. Probably. So, like, I like watermelon flavored things, but watermelon, the fruit itself, just not. The texture, the taste. It's just horrible. My kids love it. So
it's a texture thing. If you could pick 3 songs to describe your work ethic, or maybe a pump-up song, what would those be?
We were Googling this on the way down, so it's pretty ridiculous, the results that Google gives you. I really enjoy Taylor Swift, so a lot of her songs I feel like I'll turn to. None in particular that I would name, so to speak. There also was a song that I really enjoyed in the last year by NF is the artist. It's called Hope. It's like, he's like a modern Eminem, if you're familiar with that rap sort of music. I like all sorts of stuff, and I definitely go in waves of what I like. So I don't know if I could name 3 songs. I know that's super lame. I was going to say, like, we were joking, like, hit me with your best shot. But, you know, I think it's, like, very mood specific, too.
Absolutely.
So I know that's lame. What about you?
Well, I was thinking of my song for you was going to be This Girl Is on Fire. Right?
Yeah. I'm on fire, that's for sure.
Or All I Do Is Win, Win, Win.
Yeah, that would be great. That's going to be my song on June 16th after our override passes.
Yeah. We'll all do that dance.
Video, and we'll be dancing.
I love that one. That's kind of my pump-up. So I know we probably are getting close to time. You know, what advice do you give, you know, and I know it's women in local leadership, what advice do you give to women who are thinking about bigger opportunities, right? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. How many of you are involved in, like, your local government in some way? Yeah. I would just say, like, get involved in your local government. Like, I feel like as a country we're very defeated on the government side of things. Like, I think on the national level, it just is very disheartening to think about, like, where we're going, what does it mean? And I think as you get closer to the actual government that is your cities and towns, it's so meaningful to get involved, whether it's on a board or committee, whether it's on a local like volunteer. There's so many opportunities, but it's really the same people showing up over and over again, and I think it becomes hard for cities and towns to evolve and change and become the places we want. Like, we live in, what do we want our communities to be like? We have to get involved. Like, there's not enough sort of public dollars to create some of the things that we want to create, but there is enough elbow grease if people get in and do the work. So I would just encourage you all to do that. But as far as in whatever way you can, sort of now, and even if it's just showing up in support of a project or thing that you like, as leaders in cities and towns, we rarely ever, if never, get people who want to show up and be like, I'm just here to say I like this, or I'm just here to, say, like, I think we need to move forward with this. The people that are against stuff always show up. So even if it's a small amount, you feel like it's everyone. So I think it's really important to show up, to have your voice heard. And I think, when you're looking for moving on to something different or something that feels bigger or unachievable, I think as I started off with, you really can accomplish anything you put your mind to. It may not be on the same path you initially identify, or it may not be maybe the exact thing you were shooting for, but I really do think that in this world, anything is possible. I'm sure we all have instances of something we didn't think we'd be able to do, but we did. And I think you can scale that up as big as you want to, which is just wild. I think, surrounding yourself with good, uplifting people and getting yourself into situations that excite you, I really do think you can do it, whatever you set your mind to. So
I believe that.
I do. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Mm-hmm. Power of positive thinking in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I was joking, overthinking things, but I talked a lot on the campaign about the town's financial situation, and spent a lot of time thinking about it. Going into budget season, I don't come from a financial background per se. No one taught me how to do municipal budgeting. It was just sort of asking the questions and talking to people who knew it so that I could speak to it in a way that would hopefully be understandable to people. And I think I'm distracted. I noticed those flowers back there, and I was like, those look like my flowers. I don't even know what I was going to say. What did you ask me?
I don't know.
See, guys? That's the reality.
That is a good segue into questions.
I hope none of you were sitting on the edge of your seat for this.
I think I asked advice for women or anyone really aspiring to.
Yeah, you can figure it out. That's the end of it. Yeah. You can figure everything out. Fake it till you make it.
That's right. Well, this has been great. Thank you, Erin. And we'll open it up, I think, to any questions from the audience.
Don't be shy.
Hi, Erin. My name is Maggie. I was the Express Employment Professionals in Braintree. I live in Stoughton. I'm a town meeting member. I sit on the board for our Stoughton Equal Opportunity Committee. How do we change the narrative and to get more engagement, with the town? Like, I run a business, I'm a mom, I do a lot, and I'm still showing up, and I want other people to do that too. So how do I change that and get people to show up for the stuff that we support and not just the things that we don't want?
It's so hard. I think trying to start small, find a friend or two that is willing to maybe commit to going to a couple things and try different ways. I think I recognize that we all have a lot less sort of time, people are doing a million things, and it's hard to get people to care, but I think the more you talk about what you're doing, to just out to anybody, bring it up in conversation, tell people about issues that maybe you know about but they wouldn't know about. I think, you sort of start to create this network that grows around you, and then, people will come to you for those questions, and hopefully you can be the magnet that brings people in, and then maybe you attract one or two other people that then in turn become magnets, but it's just sort of like embracing that you want to do it and talking about it, outside of places where you would think, who's going to care about this? I started in PTO, started talking about planning board stuff. I put it on the agenda. I would bring it up at the end of meetings. And it started out to not really pick up much traction, but, a couple months into doing that, people were like asking me questions about it, and they were relying on the conversations we were going to have there. And I think to just think there's a scripted way to do it. Like if you want to do it a different way or you want to talk about it in a different format, just start doing it, because I think that is what, and I think it's important if you are sitting in different places and you have the ability to talk about, say, town stuff at, a different, maybe a volunteer effort that wouldn't be thinking about government stuff, talk about it, because time is stretched thin, that people would love to learn about two things when they're coming to do one thing. So I think, just using your ability and understanding of issues to talk about them. And I think as we all get plugged in and we are able to do that, that's how that network grows. There is that sort of, I think, disconnect, and people don't know how to get involved. And I think as community leaders, we need to do better to do that outreach and educate people on what all these different things mean. And then on top of it, when people are engaged, talking about what they're doing and offering up opportunities. So I think people just don't know. I definitely don't think people don't want to be involved. I think people want to be involved. They just don't know how to get involved. And town government's a little clunky in that respect. Like even if you want to learn about a new project that's going on, some of these meetings are very formal sort of proceedings, Robert's rules. It's like, well, there's public comment, but the decision makers aren't listening or reacting to my public comment. And it's like some of these meetings, the formalities of them don't lend themselves to conversation as much. And it is confusing. So I think maybe that's a barrier for people. But I think just talking about it is really a good first step. And then try to attract a couple people who you think, would be willing or interested, and get them plugged into something. When I was working at Niche Engineering early on in my career, the CEO of the company, her advice was always, if you join an organization, if you're part of the chamber, so to speak, join a board, join a committee within that organization. You'll automatically meet 2 or 3 people who are already doing that extra piece of work. You'll make a network. You'll have some, the hardest thing is going to some of these things, walking in the back of the room and knowing no one and feeling like everyone knows each other. We've all been there. And I think, so when you join groups, take the next step to get actively involved through joining a committee or something within those groups. So I think it's just, getting yourself plugged in and then trying to, when you're not plugged in, still talk about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions? Remember, no questions. Okay.
So earlier you were talking about work balance, and you gave me a trigger moment. I was going to give you a softball, but no.
Okay.
My wife's been in government for her whole life, and she told me we were going to win when I never even heard of you, 2 years ago. Because she knows mutual friends of yours that support you. And so you made a comment up there. You said, dog, kid, husband. Why are we all so?
Oh. Don't tell my husband I said that. Come on. That's going to come back. See, that's the side text that's now happening.
I gotta give you Captain Cummins. She says the same thing.
No, he says the same thing. He's like, we went to a chamber event the other week, and I didn't know where I was sitting. He's like, do you want me to get you a ticket? I'm like, I don't know if you buy tickets for me. I'm like, Kate will get me a ticket. And so I get there, and we're chatting, and he's like, I don't want to be in this, and I'm sitting next to the governor, and he's way off in the corner, and he's like, that's just how it's going to be. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way, but then I guess, when I'm talking about him, he's after the dog and kids, so that is, but, yeah, I don't know. It's not really that way in our hearts, so.
Nice guys finish last.
He told me that, so.
I know, I'm always sort of does he want to be in this? Does he want to not be in the middle of things? Or does he? He has this very big beard that he grew during COVID, and I don't think he's going to shave it off, but during the campaign, he was like, if you win, I'm shaving it off and dyeing my hair. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yep, no one's going to know who I am. But now he has this big beard, so I feel like that everybody knows who he is. But it is awkward for him too, though, and I think that's part of this, like, gender piece, being the first. Honestly, one of the other things is being the first female mayor is, like, I feel like now my husband, like, even though he's, like, a very, like, personable and, like, you know, he's kind of, you know, quieter. If we were both, you know, this way, it probably wouldn't work, but he's always asked, like, oh, so you're the first gentleman, the first man, what do I call you? And it is kind of like, I don't like that for him. It's part of it, but I think that is like a weird gender thing where, you know, there is a piece of me that feels like bad in that me being mayor somehow affects like that persona of him as an individual in not maybe as positive a way in some ways. And I think people are joking, and that's, you know, part of it too, and I don't know how much he actually cares about it, but yeah, I guess I think at something someone was like, oh, do I call you the first man, the first gentleman? He's like, you can call me Mike. But again, he has his side text. So he has his friends, and there's a couple of similar people on both side texts. So, you know, they're the ones that are the peacemakers of the group. But yeah, it's a different, you know, it's definitely different. He got me a book for Christmas, you know, before I was officially inaugurated, and it was like from the mayor's desk. It was published by the Urban Land Institute, and the first like foreword was like Lyndon Johnson quote, and it was like, in the darkest days of my presidency, I always thought it could be worse. I could be mayor. And I was like reading it. I like sat, I had like my pajamas on. I'm like, what's this nice book? And I read it, and I'm like, oh my God.
What have I done?
It's a hard job, but you know what? Someone's got to do it. I'm thrilled to be doing it, in all seriousness. I'm really, really, really thankful for the opportunity to be here. So, thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. We're going to take a little break in the summer for our Women in Local Leadership Series, and we'll start up again. We have 3 wonderful speakers lined up in September, October, and November. So keep an eye out for that. So, thank you again. Thank you, Cardinal,
Thank you.
for hosting us, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was so fun. Thank you, Michelle.